My dad was my first guitar teacher, so I don't have that moment. It's like, oh, I heard someone play and then I fell in love. As long as I remember existing, I had guitar in my hands. It wasn't like a moment, it was just something you do. I went to a performing high school, and then I went to a music conservatory, and then I went to a grad school for music. It's sort of like you do one thing after another and after another that takes you on that path. And at that point, you're not going to just switch. My name is Gohar Vardanyan. I'm an Armenian classical guitarist. In the guitar world, I think most people in the classical guitar world will have probably seen my videos or know my name or recognize me somehow. I play classical guitar, literally only classical, and I teach. And I live in New York City and travel wherever I can for concerts. Some people don't believe me. Like, I don't listen to music for fun because I'm in it all the time. So if a regular person goes to the office and has their job or whatever, and then their escape is listening to music, for me, my escape is not listening to music. It's to listen to a podcast, watch a show, spend time with friends, do something other than like playing or being somehow engaged in it. Because that sound, it tires you out. Like if it's music, any kind of sound, the same kind would tire you out. It could be the most beautiful, I don't know, orchestra piece, but if you're constantly listening to it all the time, same frequency, same, sound. So I can't say it's like my only thing. I've been playing this particular one 12 years? No, yeah. What did I say? 11 years. 11 years. The first 6 months or so, I liked it, obviously, but I was still getting used to learning how the instrument reacts to how I play. So I can pick up a guitar from Guitar Center and like play it. It can do a decent job on it, but it won't be the same because the way you're playing on it, if you're good, you adjust to what the instrument gives you. But it's another thing to actually have spent time and know exactly how the instrument will respond to you based on what you do. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the back of this guitar, and it's this like super pretty wood it's Moon Ebony. And I just saw the luthier kind of like walk into the room holding the guitar like normal, and all I could see was the guitar, and I turned and I totally ignored my friend. And it was like, I always joke, like stereotypical pretty girl walking into a bar and all the guys like looking at her. That was me. Like I totally ignored what I was doing and I was looking at this guitar walk into the room. And that was it. I was like, oh my God, that's so pretty. And I kind of like put it aside, right? And I started actively testing guitars. Almost had forgotten about this. It was positioned in a different room. And I just started playing all the other guitars in the vendor's fair. There were so many. I think I tried like, I don't know, 10, 15 different woods. Main difference between two guitars would be like a cedar top or a spruce top. This would be a cedar top, depending on the wood. And I tried both. I knew I gravitated towards the cedar. They have like a darker sound. And I tried, like, there were some really good ones, some very good ones that were very expensive. I was like, yeah, no, can't do that. And then I remembered, like, what about that pretty one, downstairs? And I went and I started playing this one. And I picked it up and I started playing it. And it sounded like it was a loud room, but I could feel like it sounds really nice. I just couldn't tell because it was really loud. So we took it to a more private space where I could play it in silence. And I realized that it sounds as good as it looks. My old guitar, the one that this replaced, we fly with this instrument, and that's probably the scariest thing that we have to do. The guitar is it's bigger than a carry-on allowance, because it's not as small as a violin, so there's never really a guarantee that you'll be able to take your guitar on board with you. Most of the time in the United States, I haven't had a problem. But I didn't know this back then. This was more than 10 years ago. Traveling with my old guitar, I was on a flight from Houston back to New York, and it was just these like Embraer Jets 175 or something like that have like a bit of a shallow overhead bin. And my guitar kind of like fit in it, but I couldn't close the lid because a little bit of it was sticking out, right? And there's a trick for this, but I didn't know this at the time. So I was forced to check the instrument, and I thought they were gonna gate check it, but apparently that flight didn't have gate check service, whatever. So they checked it. They baggage checked it all the way to LaGuardia, direct flight. And when I get to LaGuardia, I get my instrument in the carousel, I open it right away in the airport. And the lights or whatever, when I first opened it, I didn't see any damage. It didn't look, like anything was damaged. So I was like, okay, I escaped, Then I go home, like maybe 2-3 weeks later, I'm practicing, and oftentimes we practice in front of a mirror. And I see this crack, like from here to here, like this line on my guitar. And the other one was a spruce top, so it had like a lighter color soundboard. And I'm like, how did that get here? Because I'm not someone who hits my instrument. I'm like very careful. I just couldn't put it together for the longest time. I figured like it's already a 10-year-old instrument. Usually if guitar is gonna crack on its own, it happens within a year or two after it was built, as it gets settled after the glue and everything and the wood expands, all of that. If it's gonna crack on its own, it's gonna happen within the first 2 years, and that's it. Mine is 10 years old. It's been through Michigan winters. It's been through New York summers. Like, it's been through a lot. I couldn't place it. Another week passes by, and I see the case from the side, and I see that some part of the case, like lacquer, had chipped off. And that's when it clicked that I guess it took time for the lacquer to chip off and fall off the case, and it took like 3 weeks. And I realized that probably the airline, they dropped the instrument and it hit like from the side. That's where the case was cracked. And because of that hit, the force, it cracked the soundboard. And I called Clarion just to see, like to repair it and everything. What if it was like unrepairable? I realized it'd be that easy to at least get the money for the cost of it back so that I could replace the instrument, because it's, my livelihood. Every instrument is so different, right? Like this instrument, like we were talking earlier, it took me about 6 months to open it up because I was the one who's playing on it. It probably opened up more to me. They're not alive, obviously. It's a dead piece of wood, but it is wood. It's a natural material. And if we had the alternate reality where somebody else had bought this instrument, not me, and they were a different player from me, this guitar today would sound different from what it sounds today. And if we had the capability of taking this, like that movie Sliding Doors or whatever, right, and have this guitar in my hands and this guitar in somebody else's hands, they would be two different instruments that many years in. So this guitar was kind of customized to me, and you get attached to it. It does take focus. I mean, you kind of become in your bubble when you're playing it, focused on what you're doing, but also, depending on what you're playing, muscle memory carries you through, and then you learn to tune out everything around you, as long as it's not sudden and scary. Like if something very loud happened, it would probably startle me. That's just reflex. But everything else, you just ignore. I have a bunch of pieces that I want to learn, right? That I just haven't had time to learn yet. So that will keep it fresh for me. I choose pieces I like to play, so no one tells me what to learn. And that helps, because then I can live with that piece for 3-4 years and not get sick of it. First of all, it takes 6 to 8 months to learn some of them. That's already commitment to that piece. And then you have to play it for a few years. So I pick pieces that I like. In that case, I can keep playing them and not get sick of them. And in between concerts, that's when I take the breaks and learn new music. And that keeps it fresh.